glad for the Lord. I asked Zach to look something up for me there. It's been on my mind. Yesterday, I was visiting a nursing home in Charleston, and I was leaving the nursing home, and this dear old lady was sitting at the door of the nursing home, had her coat on, had a blanket over her head, had her little old pocketbook, and I don't know how long she'd been in the nursing home, but she was sitting there weeping and crying at the door. At the door of all the nursing homes I've been in, they've got buzzers on the doors. You got to buzz to get in. Then you got to have, and most of the codes is the same codes. It's a 4-digit code, and you push star to get out. They do that so the patients can't slip out. But anyway, she was sitting near the door, sitting there when I went in, sitting there when I come out, crying. Over and over and over, she would say, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. And when I was leaving, as I walked out the door, as you know, yesterday was a dreary day, cold and kind of misty rain, spitting snow every once in a while. But when I got out on the parking lot and I sit down in the car, I waited there for a while, and I sit there and thought, and it kept ringing in my ears, I just want to go home. And I thank God that I've got a home to go to. Aren't you? I'm glad that I know where my home is. There's only 2 destinations for eternity, but I'm glad. I asked Zach if he would look up a definition for me, and I would like him to share with the church tonight the definition of home. You say, I know what home is. Listen to this. I'm sure it'll bless us all.
It is one's place of residence or a social unit formed by a family living together. A familiar or usual setting, or it's a place of origin, one's own country. An establishment providing residence and care for people with special needs, and the object in various games, especially home plate. So it's the place where you live, it's the place where you come from, and it's the object of your travels. It's the object of something to attain.
Your destiny.
Your destiny.
Yeah, I like that. I really do. But as I thought about that, it's no wonder, listen, that folks wants to go home. And as I sit there and thought, it brought back, it kind of purged my memory. And I kind of thought, through all of Jenna's surgeries, Tammy can tell you, she just wouldn't cooperate. She would not cooperate in the hospital. Her blood pressure wouldn't be right, and her signs wouldn't be right. But constantly, and we would hear it over and over and over and over again. I just want to go home, she would tell us, whether we would be in Charleston Hospital or Morgantown. She would tell us, and she would cry, and we'd say, Jenna, you gotta wait. That was not good enough. She'd say, I just want to go home. And you know what happened when she got home? And finally, through the years, we would tell the doctors and the nurses that if she gets home, she'll improve. Now, what would take place? I don't know what took place, whether it was a security, whether it was a comfort, or as the definition said, the familiarness of some place that is familiar or some place that is comfortable. When Jenna would get in the doors of home, she would begin to recuperate. She would be, her appetite would come back, and all the other things would work as normal. Boy, I'll tell you what, anywhere is home if Christ my Lord is there. There's nothing about being in a place, as Kimberly was talking, being in the place where the Lord is not present, or a place where the Lord can't have free will. It's an unfamiliar place, and I thank God to live in the presence of the Lord. All right, I've got a message tonight. I was about to say a short message, and I'm not going to say that again, but I've got a message tonight that's been on my mind for a couple of weeks, and I want to share it with you by the help of the Lord, and I would appreciate if you would pray for me. And it's blessed me, and I know that it'll bless you, and you just pray that God would bring to my mind what I've studied and what I've researched. I don't ask for nothing more. I know He's a miracle worker and all like that, but I believe that God will help us if we help ourselves. Amen. So anyway, pray for me. The Bible said in chapter 2 of Luke, we've read it probably, I don't know how many times in the last month, and I preached on the peace, and I preached on the goodwill. Now both of those fed me, but tonight I plan on preaching, going along. Zack got on my message this morning, but I plan on preaching of the glory of God. Listen to, as a heavenly host stood, the multitude of angels stood praising God. Verse 14 records what was said. The multitude of angels said, glory to God in the highest, and on earth, listen, separate the two. The angels, the multitude of angels, was acknowledging as God being in the highest, being in the heavens, and they also, Him being there. Boys, blessings was going to flow down upon the earth. Said glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. Now, we've heard that. We've heard that. If we've never read the Bible, we've heard that. Now go over to 1 Corinthians, where I ask you to turn. And chapter 6, the very last verse being verse 20, I want you to look at that for just a minute. The Bible said here, Paul talking to the Corinthian church, he said to those folks, he said, for ye are bought with a price, therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. He told them, said, you've been bought with a price, therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. And we've been bought with a price. We've been purchased. And the price that we was bought with didn't come easy. Now, I'm glad to know, speaking of Christmas, and this might have a little Christmas fling to it, and it might not, or a Christmas flavor, but I thank God for how I was raised. I really do. There's folks, I'm not the most appreciative person in the world, but I feel like I'm somewhat appreciative, and I'm thankful. As I've said so many times, and we don't even get them anymore. You may be able to call and get them, but we'd get them Christmas books, and I've talked about them, and we wore them out. We would mark things, or we would ask for things that we knew that we wasn't going to get. I would get so wrapped up in Christmas, I'm telling you, and I'm not one to. I don't look at the what's the fortune thing in the paper? Horoscope. I do not fool with that. There's not a Ouija board coming in my house and all of that. Listen to me. The devil's got powers, and I don't want to entertain him. No sirree. If we don't entertain the devil, Mama used to tell us, listen, she said don't pay folks no attention and they'll leave you alone a lot of times. Boy, the devil aggravates us a lot of times because we entertain him, yes sir. And I don't want him to think that he's getting to me because I don't want to make his day better, no sir. But anyway, there was a lot of times we asked for things and we didn't get them. Why? Because if Mom and Dad would have had the money, we would have got what we wanted to. But they didn't. Mom and Dad, for years, they had to charge everything that we had that we got for Christmas, it come through the finance. Somebody trusted them enough to give them things on credit. But the Bible, Paul said, for ye are bought with a price, therefore glorify God in your bodies. He was talking, be appreciative, be thankful for what you got. But there was a big price paid to make Christmas possible. Zack, there was a big sacrifice that was given, and we give God the glory for all that was done. Pray for me, church, that I would be able to get free here. But anyway, the Bible starts off, and the New Testament starts off. It didn't start off with Jesus, and it didn't start with Joseph and Mary. The Bible said that there was a man by the name of Zacharias. Zacharias was a priest in the temple, and his duty in the temple was to burn incense. And the Bible said that Zacharias' wife Elizabeth happened to be a family member of Mary. And the Bible said that Zacharias and Elizabeth was well stricken in years. More or less they was old folks, very old folks, but Zacharias was in there. Zacharias, I was thinking, Zacharias hadn't given up. Zacharias hadn't quit praying, even though he was an old man. But I think we miss out on a lot of blessings sometimes because we give up. Yes, sir. We'll say, well, wouldn't it have been silly now? Wouldn't it have been silly for me, for my mom and dad? I can remember living up in Jody, and the year that we got our first bicycles, everybody did. There was 5 of us kids, and everybody didn't get a brand new bicycle. We got 2 bicycles, one for the girls and one for the boys. And the boys come out pretty good, and I'm glad that old Doug liked to fool with animals, because the bicycle didn't entertain him very long. I got to burn the tires off of it. Yes, sir. But anyways, I remember, listen, had mom and dad given me, church, and I want you to pay close attention, had mom and dad given me a bicycle, listen now, when I was 1 or 2 years old, that would have been, my goodness gracious, he couldn't have rode that 26-inch Western Flyer or whatever it was. No, sir. Don't you think sometimes we don't get what we got because we ain't big enough yet? Yes, sir. Not that we ain't good enough. Mom and dad didn't love me a bit better when I was ever how old, when I got that bicycle, that they did when I was 2 years old. They loved me the same, but thank God forever they was looking out for me. Let me slow down here. The Bible said that Zacharias, his job was to burn incense in the temple. And he was there. And one day, listen, the angel Gabriel appeared unto him as he was in there. Remember what verse 14 of 2 said? Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. I'm preaching it backwards, ain't I? I started in the middle, preached the middle, preached the end. Now I'm preaching the beginning of verse 14. But the Bible said as old Zacharias was in there, and he was an old man, I picture, and we don't have a lot of history. Maybe we could go and add up and do some research and figure out, but the Bible said well stricken in years, and well stricken in years is an old person. Now, the age of some, the Bible records that Methuselah was the oldest man ever recorded, and he was 969 years old when he died, and he went to the grave. So it wasn't a very, let me borrow that cane just a minute. Not that I need it, but anyway, I figure, listen,